Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Yo!
What up, though?
I got to talk. I gotta tell what I feel. I gotta talk about my life as I see it.
All right then. It's time for you to bring it to the table.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
Street Beat.
Yeah.
With Tony B.
For the next hour, Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community.
Street Beat. Street Beat. With Tony.
Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Street Beat. Street Beat is your community radio show that keeps you in touch with the beat of the city. And the beat of the city has been one that has pulsated with demonstrations, protests, peaceful, some violent, over George Floyd. That's how it started, over George Floyd. And George Floyd was murdered when a police officer kneeled on his neck. From that, Minneapolis began to rise up in that protest. Those protests spread all over the world. I think there was a little surprise when protests started to happen in cities other than Minneapolis. And then, you know what? They didn't stop. The protests kept growing and growing. And then there became an awareness of what it's been like to be black. And so then you also have had a, what do you want to call it, white awakening, where you have white people who are going, wow, I think I get it now. After not understanding for however many years I've been alive, I think I get it. That's okay. If this was a seminal moment, if this is what it took to make that happen, that's okay. Doesn't mean that's enough. So anyway, that's the scenario that we're in right now. We're having marches and protests and rallies in Seattle and demonstrations. And South Seattle put on a rally on Sunday, March 1st, that went from Othello, east on Othello down to Rainier. From making that right on Rainier, the march went south and ended up ultimately in the parking lot of Safeway. It was beautiful. As a matter of fact, go to the RainierAvenueRadio.world website, or Facebook page, and you'll see some amazing pictures. They've been getting a lot of hits. We covered this event really well. We were excited about it. We were proud of it. After all, we are called Rainier Avenue Radio. This is the community that we exist to amplify the diverse voices of. This is the community where we have over 70 members who produce or host shows on this radio station. This is the community where initially when the coronavirus began to impact, we wanted to make sure that it was our community that had its needs met. At the very least, explain to us what's going on in South Seattle. So you get the picture here. Rainier Avenue Radio, Rainier Avenue Protest, Rainier Beach Community Station. This, in my opinion, is what community stations do. They look out for community, they watch community, they mirror community. We simply reflect the things that are taking place within our community. People come on the air to advocate for the community. People come on the air for a number of different reasons. So I'm digressing. I get back to the march, but we're Rainier Avenue Radio. And so we are broadcasting the rally as well as the march. Beautiful pictures, go look on the website. At the rally, it was an incredible experience. A number of speakers who spoke of black pride, of rejuvenation, of power, of strength, of spirituality, of giving. It was a wonderful, wonderful, peaceful rally of, some say, 15,000 people in South Seattle at Rainier Beach. There was no need for any police officers. There was no need because it was a rally in our community, we want to live. And we all knew what that meant. We want to live. It meant that, the focus of this was George Floyd and the death of a black man at the knee of a white man. This resonates. And so everyone was there to figure out, how do we deal with this? We had guest speakers who shared their opinions. It was a beautiful experience, except for one thing. Kshama Sawant. Now, I'm not talking about her politics. I'm not talking about the things that, she is elected to do or that she runs on, or maybe the allyships. And we can talk about those. We're going to talk about those, why you have to have certain allies, why it makes sense to have partnerships, why it makes sense to combine different groups of people who together can be stronger. That is not a bad thing. And I'm digressing a bit here, but I go back to, if you remember, Roberto Maestas and Uncle Bob Santos and Bernie Whitebear and Roberto Maestas, Larry Gossett. They together combined to help lift everyone up. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have allyships. I'm saying that the speech that I heard Kshama Sawant give was not conducive to the vibe that was already taking place there, and it really felt offensive. And I think that she owes the community apology. Why do I say that? Because the focus was not on Black lives. The focus was not on how everyone else seemed to be aware at that event important it was to just think about how this impacts Black people. To discuss that, to share that, to figure out what we can overcome. I'm going to play it for you. I'm going to play the entire speech that Councilmember Sawant gave at that event. I'm going to play it for you so that you can decide and discern for yourself. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. It's nothing that we have to have an argument about. We can have a discussion about it. And I will be happy to listen to the explanation of why this particular speech, held in the interest of the Black community, given by Councilmember Kshama Sawant, was good for this community. In my opinion, she hijacked the moment, hijacked the stage for her personal use politically, to engage African Americans and once again use us for our vote, but not just at any time, at a critical time in history, when you have Black folks galvanizing and other races galvanizing and saying, you know what, systemic oppression is wrong. And so at the rally at Rainier Beach on Sunday, Kshama Sawant hijacked the stage. Now, you can say that's my opinion, but I've also talked to other folks who felt the same way. I also saw the crowd when she began to speak, how the atmosphere and the vibe changed. I saw what happened when she began to demand that the crowd support and respond to her call and response. So at a rally entitled "We Want to Live," Councilmember Kshama Sawant, how many times do you think that she said Black lives or Black lives matter? Remember, this is "We Want to Live," all right? After the George Floyd murder, we want to live. How many times do you think she said Black lives and Black lives matter? You're going to hear the whole speech. How many names do you think that Councilmember Kshama Sawant mentioned of African Americans who had died at the hands of the police or just anything? How many names do you think she mentioned? I'm going to play the speech. How many times do you think she mentioned Jenny Durkin or Durkin? I'm going to play the speech. Out of the things that I mentioned, how many times do you think that she evoked the name of George Floyd? I'm going to play the tape. Out of those things that I've just mentioned, the Black Lives Matter, I'll even group them together so that you get the choice of saying Black Lives or Black Lives Matter. Out of the choice of being able to say anyone African American, black, who had been killed at the hands of the police, how many times? How many times did she say George Floyd? Again, you're going to get the opportunity because I want you to be counting them. How many times did she say Jenny Durkin or Durkin? Out of those 4 options, which do you think is the most important to black people? Maybe that's a question you should ask yourself. So, King County Council member, I did request, don't think that I did not request. I very respectfully requested Kshama Sawant to join me on the air to talk about this because maybe it was just my lack of understanding, and I wanted to present Councilmember Kshama Sawant the opportunity to explain to me why the speech that she gave was impactful and important, and that door remains open so that I can better understand, and maybe a few other people can better understand. And again, I can't speak for everybody, so I don't know how everyone feels. That's why I'm going to play the tape, so you can see how you feel about it. Again, I asked a few people to come. I asked Seattle City Council member Tammy Morales to come on the show with me because I wanted to know how she felt about it. And I didn't hear back from her, Councilmember Morales. I have heard from Councilmember Morales in the past when I was doing coronavirus show, and but I didn't hear back on this particular issue. I did reach out in the Seattle District 2. That's Councilmember Morales' district. So I thought that Councilmember Morales should either know, or at least I would like to know her position on what Councilmember Sawant said at Rainier Beach. And if she did not know, I was going to play the tape. I asked King County Council member Girmay Zahilay, who is the King County district person for District 2, which means it's also his area. I asked both Tammy and our Council member Morales and King County Council member Zahilay if, in addition to coming on the show to discuss this with me, if they would get in touch with someone from Kshama Sawant's office, because I couldn't get in touch. The phone is full. I've emailed. I haven't heard anything, and I just want to make sure, I've never met this person, that this person has a fair opportunity to respond to what I'm saying. And King County Council member Zahilay responded to me and said, I will put you in with her chief of whatever he said. Chief of staff, chief of something, if I don't have that right. He put me in touch. Sent an email to that person from, and I can show you the email, so the semantics of who it was doesn't matter. He did make that effort, and he didn't hear anything back, and he agreed to come on the show tonight. He knows what we're going to talk about, and so he'll be joining me on the show a little bit later. I asked a couple other people if they'd like to come on the show, and I get it. This may not be the most comfortable conversation to have, but I think that these are the conversations that we need to have. I think important conversations about race and politicians and communities are important conversations to have. We get talked to enough. We get scripted enough. One of the slogans is enough is enough. So, if there are things of importance to black people that are related to systemic oppression and racism, I think that they should be discussed. And in particular, if you're a politician and you are speaking at a rally called We Want to Live, well, it looks like we need to have a discussion. I'm going to play the tape. But it was a marvelous, incredible event. Thanks again to Tia Yarbrough and Community Passageways and Derek Wheeler and people who put this together. And if I'm not mentioning your name, you know who you were when you were there. A lot of you we have on tape because we filmed every single speech that was there. We're Rainier Avenue Radio. Do we have, what do we have up? Do we have a couple, do we have Tia's up? What do we have up there right now? Anything else?
All the ones that are on the
Okay, let's, do you have Tia's? Whatever you have that's not Kshama. So I'm going to play you one of Bishop Witherspoon. Anybody, it doesn't matter who you pick. White King's fine. Just randomly pick somebody. So White King spoke at this event, and we're going to play you what White King had to say. You have that ready, Mr. Bellis? Okay, let's play that. Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio, our live broadcast from the We Want to Live rally and march.
Peace, family. Y'all look beautiful. Y'all look powerful. Change can happen right here. It's going to happen right here. You know, K.Y. King Garrett, represent Africatown, third-generation community builder in the Central District. The South End is our second home. You know, I just want to address something right up front. There's been a lot of talk about looting and property damage. But I stand here, and many of you, as the descendants of those who were looted from Africa and brought here as property. So what about the property damage that we've suffered the last 400 years and continue to suffer? And that's why it's okay for them to take a knee, but what we really need is for their bosses to pay the fee. That means reparations, that means repair rations. In order for black lives to matter, black communities have to matter. We left the South, my grandparents left the South, like many of yours, and settled in the Central District. Then they migrated to the South. It's the strongest branch of our family tree that rooted in the Central District. I read an article about a few months ago, said the South End, 98118, which was the most diverse area code in the country, they said, Rainier is now majority white. In order for black lives to matter, black communities have to matter. They got their knees on our necks in our communities, in the Central District, in the South End, and all over this country. We can't breathe. We need space to breathe. We need land to breathe. We need to be able to build on it so that we can stay here, we can grow and thrive. See, police terrorism or over-policing and police terrorism go hand in hand with gentrification and weed and seed. They said George Floyd was striving to bust a move with a forgery or something for $20 allegedly. This whole thing is a forgery. This whole thing is a forgery. So, we saw that. They had the knees on the necks of our Native American brothers first, the Wamish land, and we honor that. Eric Garner, they said he was selling cigarettes. Economics. Alton Sterling, they said he was selling CDs. Economics. They got the knees on our necks of our economics in our communities. We got to get the knees off our necks. Look around. We see building happening. You see this crane? Who's this crane building for? Are we building? Are we getting those jobs of $30 and $40 and $50 an hour? Are our black contractors working on these jobs? So that's what we got to focus on. Getting the land, controlling the land. We know they want Rainier Beach High School. That's my second home. That's prime real estate. They've been trying to close it down. We got to focus on the land. What I'm saying is that in order for black lives to matter, black communities have to matter. We need the land. the access to the capital to build on the land so we can have affordable housing, so our businesses can grow and thrive, so our culture can continue to grow and thrive in the communities where we've been for almost 140 years. We also need control of the resources that are supposed to impact our lives. Shout out to everyone that put this together. I know the community organizations like Community Passageways, Creative Justice, Rainier Ravens, CD Panthers, they all working with scraps, on love, on heart, on the muscle. Well, all these organizations got our faces on their brochures. They got our stories on their annual breakfast, raising millions, billions of dollars. We need to be in control of those resources that are supposed to impact our lives, whether they come from the government or they come from the private philanthropy. We need control. And those are the two things that we're focusing on with our King County Equity Now campaign. KingCountyEquityNow.com. You can go there on your platform and sign in and keep up with what's going on. The two things, the land, the capital, and the control power over the resources that are supposed to impact our lives. Because again, it's cool, it's okay that they take a knee, but what we really need is for their bosses to pay the fee. Thank you.
You're listening to Street Beat with your host, Tony B. That was Y King live at the time at the We Want to Live rally in the parking lot of Safeway, again, attended by maybe 15,000 people. What did you think about that? Do you think that that was something that was inspirational for black people? Do you think that that was a message aimed at black people? You can tell me you heard it. You know what? I'm going to, again, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm saying Kshama Sawant hijacked this particular rally. And I think that she owes an apology to the black community, because you cannot, at this critical time in history, try to co-opt the movement for black people that was based off of the murder of a black man for your political votes. And black people should need to be aware of that. Because sometimes if you only get the soundbite, that's all you hear. Because the soundbite that you heard, you didn't hear Y King's voice as the soundbite. I'm going to play a couple more. The soundbite that you heard on mainstream media was Kshama Sawant. And you're going to know what she said because I'm going to play what she said. And you're going to easily figure out which part they chose to play as the message coming from the Rainier Beach rally. We have somebody else who I'm going to play. How about Smitty? Can we play a little bit of him? And I'll just play a couple of other things. I just want you to get a feel for what was going on. So here's Derek Wheeler-Smith. Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio, our live broadcast from the We Want to Live rally in March. This is Tony B, and I am with Derek Wheeler. Derek, let's talk about the role. And I know that initially, I think you were one of the people who had an early conversation with the mayor, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong about that.
No.
Okay.
Conversation with the mayor. I do work with the county, though. I work for Zero Youth Detention, but I'm a community member. I've grown up, spent all my life here. My family has been here, the Wheelers, instrumental in Zion Preparatory Academy. My father, Doug Wheeler, many people are familiar with my family. My brother, Dominic Davis, and several other leaders came together because we felt like something needed to happen in our community, where we needed to organize and come together as a collective, one, to stop the violence that's happening in our communities. We've had so many young people dying. Matter of fact, we've had more young people die Q1 of this year than we have the last 5 years in South King County. So we've been organizing literally around a regional approach to gun violence. We've got both the county and city. There's 17 different departments that have come together, from Superior Court to the prosecuting attorney's office to the Human Services Department, public health. I can't even name them all, right? Who have all come together literally to come with a comprehensive plan around how we can address violence in our community. And so we wanted to really come together, though, as people from the community with the community hat on to say, let's stop killing each other, but we're also not going to stand for state-sanctioned violence and police brutality.
You're listening to RainierAvenueRadio.world. That's my man, Derek Wheeler. Derek, I want to ask you a question because as you know, this is not new. This has been something that has been going on. I've given my opinion on it. I've talked to Rick. I've talked to Nikita Oliver. I talked to Tia. Give me your perspective on what can be done to make this more than just a movement and turn it into a movement. And do you see this as something different? Do you see this as a paradigm shift in the attitudes of people? One of the things, again, that I've noticed is unashamedly, when I was at Franklin High School, when I saw all those black, brown, white people together demonstrating, rallying, it wasn't about equity. It wasn't about equality. It was about saving black lives. And I found that to be something unique and different about this particular movement that's going on here.
Yeah, I think you really hit it on the head. I think one of the things that we've had a difficult time doing is isolating race and explicitly talking about race. And most often, black lives gets lost in this conversation of people of color, and we're not acknowledging the fact that there are some specific things to black folks when we start talking about anti-blackness and the way that a white supremacist system was designed. And when we look at all of these statistical categories that reflect the social determinants of health, black people are literally at the bottom of every one of those categories. And so until we can isolate this conversation, there are some specific things that the government has to do in relationship to black people. And so I'm grateful that there are people that are now recognizing that this conversation has to happen. I think that we look at COVID-19 as a disruptor. Not only has it been a disruptor, but it's also been an accelerator. I think we're watching things happen right now in our time that literally would have taken another 5, 10, maybe 15 years to happen. And so the question is...
Maybe 20 years, maybe 50 years.
Absolutely.
It's ironic because you have people in your family who've been fighting against this very same thing so that you wouldn't have to, but yet here you are.
Yeah, here I am, and I recognize that I stand on the shoulders of giants. And so while it's been exhausting because I've been working during the day and then literally organizing at night, running on fumes, but I can't help but think about my ancestors and all of the tumultuous turmoil and all of the things that they fought for. I stand on their shoulders, and so I dare not, right, Tyre? I'm absolutely inspired by the amount of people that have galvanized and come here. And I think what we really want to do is be able to shift this so that it's not just a moment, but a movement. And so we want to organize. We want to continue to make sure that we're on the same page. We've got demands. And we want to address these social determinants of health in our communities. We don't just want money to fund programs. By funding programs, you're only addressing the symptoms. We want to deal with cures. We want racism to be recognized and acknowledged as a public health crisis. And when we can declare that and begin to own that, it's then that we can start to center some of these things, and we can start talking about the equity and the quality of life for our young people in a sustainable way, and how do we systematize that.
Awesome talking to you, Derek. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you for what you're doing. But the reality of it is this has been work that you have been doing all along. Now people see the urgency of it. And I want to give you a chance here for final words, if you'd like to say anything that you'd like to say. Okay. Again, one of the things that you want to cut has that, happened, Daniel? We're going to go to break here. That was Derek Wheeler-Smith. What did you think about what he had to say? Do you think that that was uplifting, inspirational? Do you think that it was engaging? Do you think that it was important to a black audience? You decide and discern for yourself. Did you hear the mood of that? You've now heard Y King, and you've heard Derek Wheeler-Smith, and I've just randomly chose a couple folks. How do you feel the mood of that event was? Are you feeling the vibe of that event? I'm saying that Kshama Sawant hijacked that event. I'm going to play the tape, and you get to decide and discern for yourself. I'm going to go to break. When I come back, King County Councilmember Girmay Zahilay will be joining me, and yes, I will be playing the tape, so that you can decide and discern for yourself whether when I make a statement like Councilmember Kshama Sawant hijacked a We Want to Live beautiful event for the purposes of political vote gathering, you can make the determination yourself. We'll be back right after this.
Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio. A 131-year-old Confederate statue in Alexandria, Virginia was removed Tuesday, a month earlier than scheduled, amid countrywide protests following the death of George Floyd. The statue, known as Appomattox, depicts a southern-facing Civil War soldier who has been in an intersection in the Northern Virginia city for more than a century. Alexandria Mayor Justin Wilson shared photos of the statue's removal on Twitter, stating that, quote, Alexandria, like all great cities, is constantly changing and evolving, unquote. Wilson said the United Daughters of the Confederacy, which owns the statue, decided to remove it a month early because protests nationwide have seen segregation-era statues vandalized. The city sent a letter to the UDC several weeks ago, the Washington Post reported, asking for the statue to be removed after Virginia Governor Ralph Northam signed a bill in April that allows a locality to, quote, remove, relocate, contextualize, or cover any monuments for war veterans on the locality's public property, unquote. And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Class of 2020 graduates, we are, no, wait a minute, let's see. To the esteemed graduates of the class of 2020. Run that back again. When you finish high school, college, grad school, or even grade school, I mean, you're still graduating. It just doesn't feel right. 2020 graduates, we got you. Rainier Avenue Radio celebrates your hard work while maintaining safe and social distance. Rainier Avenue Radio celebrates your corona commencement without the crowds, but with a lot of pomp and circumstance. Presenting your class of 2020 graduates! Congratulations to 2020 graduate Misha Michaela Holman Nickerson. Congratulations, Misha. Misha Michaela is a graduate of Renton High School. Misha Michaela has been a cheerleader at Renton High School for all 4 years. Cheerleading shows school spirit. Misha Michaela also works at the Circle Time Daycare, taking care of the babies. 2020 graduate Misha Michaela Holman Nickerson is hoping to go to Honolulu Community College next spring. Hawaii, here comes Misha. Misha Michaela, your grandmother says we are so proud of the strong lady you've become. You are truly amazing. Your family loves you. Misha Michaela Holman Nickerson, 2020 grad from Renton High School.
Wanawari and Langston proudly present 206 The Break, a Seattle hip-hop live stream series. Each DJ set will be presented in a live stream program hosted by 2 local hip-hop luminaries who will bring their unique insight and the local culture and music scene of the era represented in the episode. For more information, go to wanawari.org, langstonseattle.org, or on our Facebook pages. It's made possible with funding support from For Culture and the City of Seattle Office of Arts and Culture.
This is RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Welcome back to Street Beat with me, your host, Tony B. Street Beat is your beat of the city, and the beat of the city right now is Kshama Sawant hijacked the South Seattle rally and march. Well, I don't know about the march. I didn't see that, but the rally, yeah, I think that the community is owed an apology for taking an opportunity to speak at a rally and not nearly address the issues and concerns of black people, and then demand that they give you and follow you and give you their vote. So again, I'm going to play the tape so that you can decide for yourself and discern for yourself. If you've been listening, you heard Y King, you heard Derek Wheeler Smith. Joining me now on the air is King County Councilmember Girmay Zahilay. Are you there, Councilmember Zahilay?
I'm here, Tony B. Thanks for having me again.
So you know the thing that I'm going to talk about is the co-opting of once again a black struggle for the purposes of, in this case, getting more votes, but no real concern and a distraction from the real issue, which was the impact that this is having on black people. And I understand that you need to have allies in some instances. And so I thank you for coming on the program tonight. You know what I want to talk about.
Absolutely, Tony. Thank you for having me. It's a very important topic.
So from your perspective, how should black people look at their vote? Should it be important to them to really research who they are giving their vote to? People don't have a lot of time. Should they rely on leaders, politicians who say, I'm here to support you, who actually run saying that they will do certain things? How can the black vote be effective and at the same time be individual?
I think it's really effective when highly credible leaders in our community, like yourself or White King, or all the great black women who are leading protests, Nikita Oliver, ask for a black agenda. You know, it's very easy to create an agenda where you center things that are, you know, not necessarily race conscious, but are economics conscious. But I think you really should ask, what's the black agenda, and have people show you what the black agenda is. When you hold people accountable to that very specific question, it puts a pressure on them to have a platform that works for our communities.
Okay, and I know you just joined, so you probably have an opportunity to hear. I'm going to play the speech that Kshama Sawant made, but I'm going to give another one because I'm just trying to give people a vibe for what this is like. How about playing Nikita's speech? Can you bring that one up? So, yes, Nikita was there. We'll play a little of Nikita. Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio, our live broadcast from the We Want to Live rally and march.
This community together, and so vital that we do that. Again, I'm Rick Dupree along with Tony B. We're here live on Rainier Avenue Radio, and we're at the Rainier Beach Safeway, and the group has come together. And I want to give it back over to Tony. I want to say hello to Nikita Oliver. And Nikita, welcome, and just talk about the impact of nationally what's going on. But hey, we're here at home and trying to make a difference. Talk about the impact and how important that is to make a difference here at home.
Yeah, you know,
I'm going to say this first again, just in case you've tuned in. If what you see here is a lack of social distancing, we're also having another crisis. It's called a Save Our Life crisis. And we have to deal with the immediate crisis. So remember that we want to be doing this, but sometimes you have to make your voices heard, and this is what struggle is all about. And so again, consider everyone here putting their lives on these front lines so that some of us can be home and be safe. And we need to be safe, but sometimes we have to do more than one thing at once. And I'm excited to have a leader in our community joining us and being part of this. Nikita, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, what's so beautiful and important about what we're doing here today is it's on the front lines of police brutality. Our community is often over-policed, often used as a reason why we need more police. And reality is, what we've shown today is we can actually take care of ourselves and each other. We have Be Safe Bros out here. We have safe passageways. We have community passageways, creative justice, Choose 180. We have all these programs out here that are built to protect us, to address harm, to provide accountability. These are programs that don't have guaranteed budgets. We raise our own money to do this. While the police get a guaranteed budget every year to continue to do the same things they've been doing for hundreds of years, which is over-police us and treat us with brutality. So what is significant about being on this front line today is showing we have the capacity, we have the brilliance to actually build autonomous safety networks that have true public health and public safety strategies that are built in our communities, that are established on relationship, and that effectively work. So that when we call for defunding the police, we're also calling for investments in these programs that we know work to keep us safe.
And Nikita, Rick and I were having a conversation, which I won't run by the whole thing from now, but quickly from your perspective, how do we go from making this a moment to a movement?
You know, the way that we go from making this a moment is about strategy, consistency, and each of us playing our roles. Too often do we allow the political establishment, especially...
Okay, Councilmember Zahilay, I heard that. I think that I heard a message that was in support of the black community that was on topic or in regards to the murder of George Floyd, which started this whole thing, ending police brutality and violence. I thought that I heard something very positive about what can be done in the community to improve. What did you hear?
I heard the brilliance of Nikita Oliver, as I always do. That's what I heard. Very on topic. She mentioned all of the Black-led organizations that are doing great work in our communities and all of the ways that Black people are supporting Black people to bring about the justice that we all want to see.
Okay, how about playing some of Dominique? This was after. Just grabbed him and did an interview. Again, I'm just giving people
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio, our live broadcast from the We Want to Live rally and march.
I'm going to close this event out. I thank everybody for coming out. This was a beautiful event. I just got a phone call a few minutes ago from somebody that's watching it on the news. They said that the news was saying this was the most organized event that they ever saw. Listen, I don't want you to leave without an action item. This is the first event. We're going to do another one in a month, another one the month after that, and another one in a month after that. If you ain't in this for the long haul, then you're playing the wrong game. If you ain't willing to roll up your sleeves and get on the field and play, then you need to sit in the stands and get out the way. This is a marathon, not a sprint. There's an event on Juneteenth, Freedom March. It's going to be on 23rd and Union at 3 p.m. on the 19th of June. Let's support that event. I want to give another thing to Chicago.
Okay, Councilmember Zahilay, I'm going to eventually play the Kshama Sawant. Play Bishop Reggie Witherspoon, please, just a little bit of that. With Rick Dupree.
I think we're going to get started here. I have Mr. Rick Dupree with Mr. Reggie Witherspoon. But I think we're getting ready to get started. So we're gonna turn you over to the microphone. But in the interim, why don't you just come over here?
Yeah, and I'm gonna grab Bishop Reggie. It was last week at a rally downtown, and just talk about what you're seeing. Is this different from what you've seen in the past, and how is it so far?
Yeah, Rick, I think this is the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. I think for real, once and for all, people all around the world, not just in this country, have come to the conclusion that African American people of color are significant. It's asinine, it's barbaric, it's inhumane to treat another human being less than a human. So I think what makes this different is that the whole world is resoundingly saying we are with African Americans and we're not taking any more. Now the big work comes when we have to try to get in there and change these broken systems. And that will happen through the black vote, for one, and so that we can get people in there so we can legislate some of these things on our behalf. But right now, the people who can make the changes legislatively are many of the people who are the problem. So it's a monumental task, and it needs a divine intervention, but we're moving in the right direction.
I mean, talk a little bit about that. You talk about some of the things that need to happen. What else can people do to help make a change?
Quickly,
because again, we've been talking about.
Just wanted to play a little bit of Bishop Witherspoon. We have all of these tapes of all of the speakers there. And so, again, Councilmember Zahilay, you're still there, right?
I'm here.
Now I'm going to play. I don't know if you've heard it. Have you heard the speech? I
have not.
Been no way for you to hear it. So you've heard a couple of them. Played a couple earlier. Now I'm going to play the speech by Councilmember Kshama Sawant at an event called We Want to Live, where black people, as you've heard them. You've listened to what this was about, how it got put together, the turnout. The feeling, the vibe, you heard the speakers. Now I'm going to play the speech by Kshama Sawant. Go ahead.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio, our live broadcast from the We Want to Live rally and march.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kshama Sawant. I am the socialist at Seattle City Hall. As an immigrant woman of color, as a city council member and elected representative of Seattle's working people, as a socialist, as a rank and file member of the teachers union, it is my duty and honor to be able to stand in solidarity with this nationwide, no, not nationwide, global rebellion against racism and against police brutality and violence, and a society that continues to inflict systematic oppression on the majority. In Seattle, we have had 30 members of our community murdered at the hands of Seattle police since 2011. Not one single police officer has been brought to justice. Yes. And that's the problem, because it is not just the police. The police are given cover by the political establishment and by the big business machinery, because a system that relies on oppression has to rely on the police state and violence, because as Malcolm X said, you can't have capitalism without racism. And so, it is zero surprise that a movement that is out protesting against police brutality and violence has been met with police brutality and violence. And this lies at the doorstep of Mayor Jenny Durkin and the city's Democratic Party establishment. It is Jenny Durkin's police force. It is Durkin's tear gas. It is Durkin's pepper spray. It is Durkin's mace canisters. It is Durkin's rubber bullets. And it's Durkin's arrest. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Durkin and this political establishment, at the same time that the George Floyd protests were breaking out, attempted to lift Seattle police from federal oversight. And it was the movement led by the black community that stopped them from happening. It was Durkin and the Democratic Party establishment that about 2 years ago approved a racist police contract that rolled back the hard-fought accountability measures. How is it, my friends, how is it that on a majority people of color city council, I was the only no vote on that contract? That is why we have to understand that what matters in the leaders, as other speakers were saying, is not so much their skin color, but which side they stand on. And our movement should refuse to accept betrayers regardless of the color of their skin. And that is why I have joined the community in demanding that Durkin must go. And if Durkin does not resign, I, as city council member, on behalf of our movement, will bring articles of impeachment. My socialist city council office stands in solidarity with the movement in demanding defund police. cut Seattle police budget in half and use those funds instead for grassroots community organizing for restorative justice. As my brother Viking said, though, it is about paying the fee. It is no longer, we refuse to accept, and our movement should refuse to accept crocodile tears, rhetoric, words, photo ops. We're done with crocodile tears, rhetoric, and photo ops. We demand action. And so, my message to the rest of the city council is, will you stand with me and the movement in demanding that the police budget be cut in half and restorative justice be funded? Will you join me and the movement in demanding that Darkan must go, and if she doesn't, we bring articles of impeachment? Will you stand with me in demanding, in terms of paying the fee, these big corporations and primarily white rich people and the billionaire class that has enriched itself by exploiting us? At the minimum, big business like Amazon should be taxed. That's why, as you all know, we are fighting to win tax Amazon and big business so that we can fund social housing, that is housing owned by the community, so that we can begin. We have a long way to go. We cannot pretend this is easy. These are systemic problems. But so that we can at least begin to address the racist segregation in our city, so that black and brown working class communities can live affordably in our city. We demand immediate release of all arrestees in the protests. We need an elected community oversight board with full powers over the police, meaning hiring, firing, punishment, subpoena power, policies and procedures. And last but not least, I'll end on this. My sisters, brothers, and siblings, capitalism itself has racism and oppression on its DNA. As hard as it will be to win these reforms, and I promise you it will be hard, because politicians will say one thing and do another unless we have a fighting movement. But as hard as the reforms will be to win, we cannot stop there. We need to fight to end capitalism itself and fight for a society free of oppression. Join me, make sure you get this leaflet, join me at a people's public meeting at Cal Anderson Park on Tuesday at 6 p.m. so we can discuss our strategy to win defund police. Solidarity. No justice? No justice? No justice? No justice? No justice? No justice? Solidarity.
Welcome back to Street Beat. That was the speech that Kshama Sawant made at the South Seattle We Want to Live rally. I asked you at the beginning, if you're just joining in, how many times did you hear Black Lives Matter? Through the entire speech. Once. How many times did you hear the name George Floyd? Didn't even have to evoke it in the right way, but just heard it. Once. How many times did you hear about the number of black people killed at the hands of police in the city of Seattle? None. How many times did you hear Jenny Durkin or Jenny or Durkin? Over 30 times. Was that the right message based off of all of the other speakers you heard? Was that the right message? King County Councilmember Girmay Zahilay, as the King County District 2 because I don't know, maybe I just need an explanation. Was that the right message for the community from your perspective?
I don't believe it was sufficient, Tony. And forgive me, I'm analyzing as I speak because that was my first time hearing it. I will say in general, I think Councilmember Sawant plays a really important role in the city from the progressive taxation standpoint and is a reliable.
I know, but that's
vote.
not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the politics. I'm saying, was that the right message? It doesn't matter was that the right message for the community? I know there are allies and you got to have this, and she helps get money from Amazon and says she's going to. I'm saying, was that the right message for the community?
It was not, Tony. I was not trying to skirt your question. Don't worry. It was not the right message. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is that we need to demand that our elected officials have a Black agenda, which is tailored toward Black people, which supports Black organizations and Black-led movements that have been doing the work for generations. And having a message purely about economics will not cut it, because if the pie gets bigger through progressive taxation or taxing Amazon, that doesn't necessarily mean that Black people are going to get a bigger portion of that pie if we're not specifically targeting Black people with our policies. If I were up there, or if for me, I would want to make sure that I'm getting up there and supporting the platform of the Black-led movements and Black leaders who are up there and who organized that large protest, maybe the largest rally in the history of South Seattle. I believe that it was. Things like King County Equity Now, put that in your platform, which specifically demands land and repurposing buildings toward Black people and building Black wealth. Acknowledge the Black people who organize the event, support the platforms they put
Now, here's
forward.
the other thing, King County Councilmember Zahilay, and I know I'm interrupting you. She wasn't invited to speak. She came, and again, I'm not trying to say anything about anybody, but there was some confusion, and it was my perspective on it. From what I've heard, is she bullied her way onto the stage. She wasn't an invited speaker. There was some confusion, and she got on stage, so she wasn't invited to speak. And but again, she's a council person, and you would think that somebody who really wants to be on the stage that bad, that they're not a speaker, but they want to be on the stage that bad, I'm thinking that they're going to have something more impactful to say about the people who are attending the rally.
Yeah, I don't know if she was invited or not.
I know the organizers told me she wasn't. You may not know that, and I respect your place on that. Again, we may be the organizers told me she was not invited.
Gotcha.
So anyway, Councilmember Zahilay, I thank you for joining me, because I wanted to attack this perspective also from a politician, and mostly from our community. As you know, our community has certain needs. Our community is a community, again, that, as you can see, can rally around itself. But our vote is valuable. Our vote is important. Our vote, and you got to do more than just try to get our vote. And how do we really quickly, Councilmember Zahilay, again, recognize the importance of our vote? What can we do to make sure that the people who say they want our vote are actually concerned about our vote? What if you don't know what all of the $10 words are, and the Amazon and the this and the that and other, and you just want to know how your community is going to be better? How do you utilize your vote?
You have to demand that your elected official has a plan for your specific community, and having a broad, generic, progressive economic agenda is not enough. You have to demand that the candidates who are before you or are not before you but are trying to get your vote have a Black agenda.
Thank you. We're about out of time, and I will continue to leave the door open for Councilmember Sawant to come on the air and discuss with me at this point her support of this movement and what she thinks is important, and she can discuss her politics as well. I'm not saying anything about politics. It was about that particular event. Councilmember Zahilay, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Tony B. Have a great day.
Yep, that's it. That's all the time I have. That's going to do it for the kid. Until next time, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace.
RainierAvenueRadio.world, breaking radio boundaries.